Candlebox just released their first album in about 5 years. It sounds pretty good. Many of you remember Candlebox from their self-titled debut album released in 1993. This one had lots of hits on it like Change, You, Far Behind, and Cover Me. So they released their album in the middle of the grunge years, as I will call it. It was a time when the big four of grunge, which would be Pearl Jam, Nirvana, Soundgarden, and Alice in Chains, they're all releasing like albums after their big one. So not necessarily their second album, but like their follow-up to their big album. And the band Candlebox came out like just at that time. So they're from Seattle. I wouldn't call them a straightforward grunge band. It's almost like a little bit of grunge, a little bit of hair metal, a little bit of blues rock. And in this review, you're going to see me dropping a lot of like different names of different bands because I know they have like a lot of different influences, and on this album they do kind of mix it up a lot. Their sound is very unique, and this album has more of like a contemporary sound. I think it's a little more mature. I think it's a little more polished. They have some more ballads, but the heavier songs are still there. So let me talk about them. There are 11 songs with a runtime of 51 minutes. The album kicks off with All Downhill From Here, and this one has a sound similar to what most of us remember. It has the heavy guitars, it has some slightly distorted vocals. I like the distorted sound of the bass, and the song also has kind of like a blues feel as well. I also like the guitar tone they use, and it does capture their early 90s sound with their level of like dirty distortion. Next is Let Me Down Easy. So this one changed its tone a bit. It's a little more bluesy. So think of a band like a ZZ Top, but mixed with some like 90s alternative. So think of a band like Bush with like lots of like guitar feedback, but I also like the thick bass sound, and you can hear that very well. Riptide is the first ballad on the album, so it has a slow intro with piano and guitar. It's a very modern sounding ballad with some orchestral elements. The song is very polished, and on the song they show off more of their kind of like glam metal side, as it could be like a typical like a Bon Jovi single. It even has like a melodic electric guitar solo, and this probably could have been a hit in like the early 90s. Sunshine has a different sound. This one reminds me of like 80s modern rock, something like Morrissey or the Smiths. Has like this atmospheric guitar feels, lots of melody. I can imagine this being played on MTV's 120 Minutes like in the late 80s. They incorporate a little bit of their grunge and hard rock into the mix as well, but the song is very memorable. Yeah, has a nice chorus, and I can see them playing this live. The next song is called My Weakness, and this was the first single. This was released actually 6 months prior to the album. I think this album was actually slated to be released a few months ago, and they kept like pushing it back, and I think that's the reason for the long gap between the single and the album. But good song, very melodic. It's more of like a pop song, has some elements of like 90s alternative sound. Has some distorted guitars, a pretty cool electric guitar solo, and the drums sound good on this one as well. We is the next song. It starts off slow, has some feedback, goes into some like acoustic strumming. This is more of a modern rock sound again, mixed with grunge. It still has that like 90s alternative guitar riffs, but more of a modern rock sound. It reminds me of that Pixies song that was like in the end of the Fight Club. I forgot the name. But the song is very atmospheric and has lots of like distorted guitar feels. Nothing Left to Lose is a song that brings back their hard rock sound. This is straightforward 90s grunge and reminds me a lot of Stone Temple Pilots. It has lots of distortion and riffs. After a few songs and ballads, it was kind of like nice to hear a song that did have like a little bit of an edge to it. This one has like that like an explicit lyric, a little E warning on it. They do kind of drop some F-bombs in there, so this one has a little bit of an edge. Lost Angeline is another rocker and has a sound that combines 90s alternative, roots rock, and a little bit of southern rock, and kind of like a little grungier version of the band The Wallflowers. I like the distorted bluesy riffs, and it's another song that probably could be played live. It has kind of like a very crowd-pleasing quality to it. Trip slows down the pace again, more of a laid-back rocker. Reminds me of something from like those like later-day Bon Jovi albums. The song sounds a lot more contemporary than the others, and they still incorporate their like grunge sound here, but only like a little bit. Don't Count Me Out has a cool southern rock intro, goes into a distorted riff that brings back their grunge sound. It's a slow-moving song, has like a slightly darker tone with like distortion and feedback. I do like the way like the two guitars work together with the main riff and the verse. That's pretty cool. Kind of reminds me of the band The Cult for some reason. Just has that sound to it, and it has a really nice bass sound in it. So if you're a bass guitar player, this is a good album for you. The final song is called Criminals, and this one sounds a lot different. It has like a lot, it's slow, there's feedback, distortion. It has that like light verse and the heavy chorus formula. The verse is very atmospheric with the echo effect on the guitar, and the chorus kind of brings back that like 90s alternative sound. And I actually think this is the best song on the album. This is probably my favorite. It's just very original and memorable. And this is like the one song that did stick with me like after my like first listen. So in conclusion, if you're a fan of Candlebox, or maybe only remember them from their first album, I think you can appreciate this. I like the fact they mix up their sound throughout the album. There's a lot of variety. I guess there is a little filler, or I don't know if I want to call it filler, maybe like slightly weaker songs towards the middle of the album. But this album has some really good like bookend songs. Like the first and last songs are very good. The sound has matured a lot, but I think all in all, it's an enjoyable album. So I will give this a score of an 8 out of 10. Let me know in the comments if you've heard any of the other albums, or if you've heard this, and what do you think of it? Okay, so coming up this week, I had new album reviews by Daughtry, Spirit Box, Anniversary album reviews, Guns N' Roses' Use Your Illusion 1 and 2, Ozzy Osbourne's No More Tears. I know Megadeth, Peace Cells just had another anniversary, 35th anniversary, and I might be able to squeeze that in this week, but there are a lot of like new releases coming out, so I'll see if I can get that done. That's it. My name is John. This is JC Rock and Metal Reviews. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, help out the channel, and I will be back tomorrow with another video.